Xiao Wei, you did a good job in this trial lecture, and our school leaders also appreciate you. But unfortunately, there are not many vacancies for teachers here, so I have to ask you to understand. Wei Ziyi accepted his resume from the other party, and thanked him somewhat helplessly. In the past 2 years, the competition in the workplace has become more and more fierce. Everyone knows that the welfare of school teachers is well developed. Teachers from college to kindergarten are inevitably more wolves, especially high school teachers. In these years, just pick a list of teachers in a key middle school. It can be said that returnees are not as good as dogs. As a newcomer, how good your lectures are, I am embarrassed to say hello to people without a 211,985 degree. However, his undergraduate degree is an ordinary one, and he has no work experience. Most of the schools will directly delete his first degree after reading it. That is to say, this Angken No. 1 middle school took a fancy to the video of the trial lecture that he sent, and then gave him an interview opportunity. Let him try a few lessons in front of the students. Unfortunately, the result is still not satisfactory. Ugh! Wei Ziyi took his resume and walked out of the teaching building where the trial room was located. He listened to the noise of the crowd on the playground directly opposite. Under the June sun, dozens of tables have been set up on the playground. Behind each table are several young people who look like consultants. A banner is hung in front of the table with the names of the universities. School badge. Hundreds of middle school students in school uniforms all gathered on the playground at this time, hurriedly looking at the shuttle between the tables, stopping at a certain table from time to time to ask questions, showing nervousness. A few days ago, the scores for the college entrance examination this year had just come out, but the universities have not yet announced the scores. Before formal enrollment, each middle school often invites staff from the admissions office of prestigious universities to come to the school for students to consult and determine their volunteers. Today is this kind of admissions meeting. Of course, for universities, this is also an opportunity to promote their own schools and strive for key high school students. In a sense, this can be regarded as a kind of interview, two-way selection of applicants to get the bait. Wei Ziyi looked at the students running back and forth, muttering to himself, then walked to the locker in the corner, took out his briefcase and prepared to put the resume back. However, he just opened the package, only to find that there was something more in the folder that should have been empty. What the hell? He took the thing out, and it turned out to be a pile of yellow paper that is rare in modern times. The paper is folded into several stacks, with moire patterns on the corners, and the cover is written in 2 large ink-splashing characters in calligraphic fonts, employment letter. Employment letter? I didn't remember which school recorded me. And I hadn't seen this paper when I was packing up. Wei Ziyi scratched his head and unfolded the first page of the paper. I saw that the words were densely written with ink, and the words were actually upright: teachers, preachers, those who are deceived by karma, immortals, cultivating and establishing careers and guarding the world. There is no difference between the two, so immortals do not have to be respected. Preaching to the world, universally crossing the world, the way of heaven can also be broken. The whole article is written in semi-smooth and unsatisfactory ancient texts. Throughout the article, it is full of semi-mysterious things such as immortality and teacher's way. He glanced around and turned it over. The next page was also written with words, but it was replaced with a modern regular script. Fellow Wei Ziyi, I hereby invite you to be the president of Kunlun University. The appointment period is from now until May 3020. Note, if you accept this letter of appointment, you will inherit all the territory and property of Kunlun University. Please consider carefully. Kunlun University takes it as its mission to teach the method of comprehension and popularize the way of immortals. Principals need to lead by example and guide students to understand the immortal Dharma and practice correctly. All students under the seat are treated equally. Teach students in accordance with their aptitude, and do not judge success or failure based on their aptitude, and do not judge heroes based on their origins. The transcendent way, the sincere one will get it. If accepted, turn to the next page. What is it? The teacher didn't become a principal, so I became a principal? Let me teach students to cultivate immortals. Is the employment period still more than 1,000 years? Wei Ziyi didn't think much about it, and turned straight to the next and last page. There are no words on it, just a picture of a complex of buildings, which looks like a fairy palace. The next moment, the picture surged as if it were alive, and then the entire stack of yellow paper also turned into a ray of golden light, directly integrated into his body. Waiting for Wei Ziyi to react, an immortal palace-like building has appeared in his mind, and there are a few lines next to the building. Kunlun University Principal, Wei Ziyi status, not open famousness, 0/100, borrowed by nameless, spirit value, 100 number of students, 0 number of employees, 1 below is a plan of a school, the overall color is off-white. He clicked twice on his mind, and it showed that it was not unlocked. At the same time, there was a line of words, not enough visibility to open the campus. Please expand the school's influence to unlock more areas. So it takes 100 popularity to open the first campus? But even the campus didn't improve its popularity. This wave is a doll. He could only move his attention elsewhere, and saw that only a personnel management panel and a mall button were lit on the interface. The personnel management panel clicked in and showed that it was empty. It is estimated that it was not opened. He could only open the mall first. There seem to be a lot of things in the mall, but most of them seem to be foggy, and nothing can be seen clearly. Only one item is on, a university promotional card, which requires a spiritual power value of 1. He tried to touch the covered mist, but there was no response, just a new line of words popped up. The spiritual power is provided by the students in the university. Please enroll and train students. UU reading www.uugonshu.com. Any student's improvement in strength, understanding, and self-breakthrough will generate spiritual power. Please remember Kunlun University's principle, everyone who sits in the seat is a student, no matter how high or low. Enlightenment of oneself is spiritual power is popularity used to open campus areas, and spiritual power used to exchange items. Wei Eyes looked around, and couldn't do anything else anyway, so he simply changed 10 business cards. The light flashed, and there was already a thin stack of small pieces of paper in his hand. Looks like a traditional cardboard, but in my hand I can actually feel the touch of an ancient parchment scroll. The business card has the same WAR and Kunlun University words as the offer letter. When it is turned over, it says an address and a series of contact phone numbers, as well as a line of the same words as the offer letter, the extraordinary way, the sincere one will get it. The address is, the top of Yushan Mountain outside Angken? Isn't that an undeveloped barren mountain? And this enrollment contact number? I'm going, isn't this my mobile phone number? When Wei Ziyi was surprised, he saw a girl in school uniform approaching him and politely asked, "Teacher, do you know where the publicity of Angken Normal University is?" Today, he came to apply for a test lecture, so he was naturally dressed a little more formally. It seems that this girl regards herself as a staff member who is coming to promote the university. I'm sorry, I didn't pay too much attention. Wei Ziyi looked at him. Do you want to report to An Normal University? Want to be a teacher? Well, it will be easier to find a job as a teacher. The girl nodded, then I will ask someone else, thank you. Is it easy to find a job after becoming a teacher? Wei Ziyi curled his lips secretly. Believe in you a ghost, the counterexample will stand in front of you. Seeing that the girl turned her head and was about to leave, Wei Ziyi suddenly felt his heart move and stopped her. If I want to find a job, I might have a better choice than the normal university. Wei Ziyi said that his face was not flushing, but he didn't lie when he insisted. If this university can really cultivate immortality, wouldn't it be better than coming back to teach Chinese and English? A better choice than the normal university. The girl was taken aback, but, a better school may not be enough for me. Don't worry, the score of this school is not as high as that of the normal university, but in terms of quality, it is only high or low. Wei Ziyi continued to install a magic stick. Its trump card is the only one in the country, and even the world, and it is professional and practical. The extremely high level is a major trend that will be able to dominate the world in the future, and you will never have to worry about finding a unit to ask for it in the future. The only ace major in the world. The girl looked confused. What is that? Isn't the current major trend in computers and finance? Compared with this major, those majors are all pediatrics. With a serious face, Wei Ziyi took out a business card in his hand and handed it to her. You don't believe me, you can see for yourself. The girl took the business card, and she looked down and said, Kunlun University, what kind of school is this? While he said this, the number next to Xiaoxian University in Wei Ziyi's mind suddenly jumped. Kunlun University popularity +1. Wei Ziyi was taken aback. Can this pure mouth flicker also increase his popularity? The address on Yushan, is this some kind of club activity? The girl was still confused. It's not a club, it's a university, with serious majors and courses. This. The girl twitched her cheeks. Excuse me, I'll think about it again and go now. She threw off such a sentence, put her business card in her pocket, and ran to the other university's position, obviously not taking it seriously. Wei Ziyi was not discouraged, looking at the panel thoughtfully. It seems that this popularity does not necessarily have to be believed, as long as they know that Kunlun University exists. He immediately cheered up. As a prospective teacher, what a student teaches is not one thing, whether you can talk about it is another thing. Talk, didn't this just hit him on the muzzle? To promote the university, this is an excellent environment right now. He didn't think much, and immediately ran into the teaching building on the side, found an empty classroom, moved out a pair of tables and chairs, placed it in the corner of the playground, and placed it alongside the row of serious and key universities, just a little distance away. What is missing? There is no promotional material or something. He glanced over the booths in front of him, and without exception, they hung banners with the name of the university in the most conspicuous place, or put the school badge printed on cardboard. A comparison made him seem empty. You can count as one flicker. Wei Ziyi placed his business card and stood behind the table pretendingly, posing as an admissions officer. But the home stadium has long been occupied by the serious university booths. His place is already on the wrong side. There are no banners and signs. Most students never noticed that there is a university publicity office. This thing can't be the same as the vegetable market. Use a loudspeaker to shout for Chinese cabbage for 10 yuan, and you don't need to pay for a university degree in Xiaoxian. Occasionally, a few curious students came up to ask which university it was. When he heard his introduction, they felt rude. After hearing a few sentences, politely took a business card, they turned their heads and left. No. This is harder than imagined. Wei Ziyi just stuffed out the last business card and said dryly. He took out a bottle of water from his bag and drank, while clicking on the mall in his head to exchange for a new business card. He also saw the record by the way. Kunlun University popularity +1, Kunlun University popularity +3, Kunlun University popularity +2. He focused on flicking some students in groups, flicking 1 + 1 point, flicking 1 pair is 2 points, 10 business cards were issued, and the popularity reached 16. It's not enough to be 100. It's a bit shabby to be a university president and you have to recruit students yourself. Wei Ziyi laughed at himself in his heart, thinking about whether to continue, but suddenly saw another figure standing at the table. Are you Teacher Wei? Wei Ziyi raised his head. He was a thin, tall boy with a little dark skin, holding a pile of materials, his facial features a little shy. Are you? Wei Ziyi felt a little familiar to him, but couldn't remember who it was. Hello teacher, my name is Wu Hao, and I belong to the 3rd and 4th class of high school. The boy introduced himself. When you were in the lecture hall a few days ago, I went to listen to it. I feel that you speak very well. Wei Ziyi just remembered that he did give an open class in the lecture hall a few days ago. At that time, in addition to school leaders, there were also student volunteers who were drawn out. Unexpectedly, even this prospective graduate who had finished the college entrance examination was drawn to the audience. Thank you then. Wei Ziyi said in a greeting, are you also here for the promotion meeting today? Do you have a favorite school? This, not yet. Wu Hao's expression became a little embarrassed. The school I came to today. Few open a book of less than one major. Anken No. 1 Middle School has developed rapidly in recent years and has been among the key high schools in the country. For several years, the book rate has reached more than 90%. It seems that this student is the hapless 10% of the people who failed the list. That's it. Wei Ziyi also noticed this. Then what kind of major do you want to apply for? That's the kind, it sounds a bit more powerful, the tuition is lower, and you can find a stable job in the future. Wu Haoyu said, the lower his voice, mainly, my family is unlikely to let me repeat. This is a very demanding boy, Wei Ziyi thought for a while, and suddenly smiled and said, coincidentally, I know a university may meet your requirements. Really? Wu Hao's eyes lit up. Maybe I haven't passed the undergraduate level, can I still go on it? There is no guarantee that you will be able to. Wei Ziyi's face was unfathomable. The things our school teaches are unique in the world, and admissions are not based on grades. Don't look at the grades. Wu Hao wondered, then, what kind of school is this? Is the application submitted like a foreign school? That kind of tuition is very expensive. It doesn't matter what it is, you just have to remember that there is no second such university in the world. As for the tuition, if you really meet the requirements, you don't have to worry at all. Pass it to him, we'll have an admissions meeting in a few days, so you can try it out. Wu Hao listened to these words. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com had doubts, but unconsciously took the business card. As a student of No. 1 middle school, his score in the college entrance examination this time was undoubtedly the bottom. He asked all the universities and was rejected by the admissions teacher without saying a word. He was almost desperate. Now suddenly there is a university that can go to without grades, or is it unique? If someone else said, he might still wonder if it's a liar. However, the public classes given by Wei's before left him with a very good impression, and his suspicion for the teacher's favor was dispelled. Wu Hao didn't think much, he couldn't wait to see the business card in his hand, and he was stunned. Kunlun University, the extraordinary Wei? I haven't heard of this school before. Wei Ziyi had seen this expression a lot before, and didn't explain much at this time. He only said quietly, what this school teaches is a way of detachment that is above the ordinary. Hearing is fictitious and seeing is believable. Now there is no need to ask more. If when the opportunity arrives, there will be a final conclusion. This is a magical thing, and Wu Hao can hear it. But it was precisely when he was rushing to the doctor and the dead horse was a living horse doctor, Wei Ziyi's breath made him feel a bit of mystery. The S2 from the bottom of his heart surged, and he suddenly felt that this might be an opportunity to change his life, like Hogwarts in the novel or the admission letter from Castle College. Isn't it all written like this? The protagonist who has fallen to the bottom suddenly received a mysterious enrollment invitation one day and came to an unknown super university. From then on, he was crushed and upgraded to the pinnacle of his life. With that said, is the teacher Wei in front of him the extraordinary person who led his life? He was refreshed at the thought of this, and he responded several times and bowed to Wei Ziyi. Thank you so much, teacher, I will go back to prepare now. Wei Ziyi watched Wu Hao turn around and leave. Happily, he picked up a call without taking a few steps. Mom, why are you calling? Yes, Our school is holding an admissions promotion meeting today. Don't worry about me, I have already contacted a good university, and I will have an interview in 2 days. Ah? The score line? This, you don't care about this. In short, the teacher said that I have enough scores, and the school must be a good school, unique in the world. When I finish my studies, I will definitely go out with those in the village. The part-time job is different. It can be seen that he is not very good at lying. He just provided a high-end and enhanced Chinese translation of what Wei Ziyi told him. It is estimated that he has used all the skills he has made in this life, and Wei Ziyi can't help but feel embarrassed. Is there such a flickering baby? In this way, based on the principle of the benevolence of the teacher, Wei Ziyi still smiled and sent him away, and then he looked at the panel in his brain and added a little more visibility. If you maintain this speed, it is not impossible to unlock the campus directly at 101 afternoon. As soon as I have this motivation, I will be motivated when I flicker. He seized the opportunity of the current publicity meeting, and regardless of whether the high school students believe it or not, he squeezed out dozens of business cards in one go. Seeing that his popularity has reached 70 or 80, and his spiritual power is still 30, Wei Ziyi was satisfied that he was about to exchange a few new business cards. He saw another figure standing next to the table. When he looked up, he was not a student, but a black one. The face of a middle school employee. A student reported that there is something about Kunlun University promoting here. She raised her hand, the university business card she had just taken from the student. We haven't invited this kind of school. Where did you come from? It turns out that this is also counted in the popularity +1. The dismantled Wei's can only go quickly as the best plan, but before leaving, he did not forget to ask for the business card from the employee under the pretext of destroying it. This is worth 1 spiritual power point. Don't take it if you don't believe it. Having said that, he could only walk out of a lieutenant colonel's door with that business card, and sighed at the remaining 30 spiritual power, with nothing but a target. Obviously, it was less than 20 points to be able to unlock it, but it got stuck. At this time, even if there are publicity meetings in other middle schools, it should be over. Can't really stand on the street and make small ads, right? In that case, even if it can increase its popularity, I am afraid that it will not fool any serious people, and it will also have a bad impact on the reputation of the school after its establishment. Wei Ziyi was lost in thought. At the same time, at the barbecue restaurant on the edge of No. 1 Middle School, 2 middle school students who have just completed the enrollment consultation are making skewers. How about it? Did you watch the enrollment meeting today? Do you still want to report to An University of Technology? The boy sitting on the left ate a piece of roasted eggplant and asked a good friend on the opposite side. Yes, there are only a few places I can apply for. The guy on the right took a bite of the meat skewers, which is like your Xiaoyuya University god. King Bei is rushing to ask for it, and you can choose any key universities. Your grades, this can you be the provincial champion for the second time? The provincial champion is a bit choking, the city level is about the same. The boy named Xiaoyuya laughed twice. The score line actually doesn't matter. Now the so-called key points are all playing the same old way. He racked his brains for funding and academic achievements. It doesn't make sense to go. Grass, I would like to call you a Versailles master. The other party gave him a blank look. Then what kind of school do you want to go to? I can't say that, as long as you can explore the unknown. Xiaoyuya thought for a while. Look at this for a while, there are more and more reports about supernatural phenomena. Last month there was an unreasonable magnetic storm. Zhou Yu, a patient who suddenly disappeared in the hospital, and a ball of lightning appeared 3 days ago. These are all very interesting topics, but no one in the academic circle studies them. Aren't these all shocking news and bluffing people? Do you really believe it? The other party swallowed the last bite. If you want to talk about interesting schools, I ran into an interesting school today, Kunlun University. The enrollment liar said it has to be true, I knew I would pull you over to see. Kunlun University. Xiao Yu raised his head, what is that? I took a business card, and you look at it for yourself. I don't know how to get into our campus, and why don't you go through normal admission, the only one in the world? Xiao Yu took the Moir business card and looked at the 4 characters Kunlun University splashed with ink on it, thoughtfully. On the other side, a girl who is also a senior high school graduate is walking out of the first lieutenant school gate. She stretched out her hand to stop a taxi and got in, then took out her mobile phone to dial the phone, and said something gravely. 10 minutes later, she got out of the car at Angkhen Third Hospital, ran straight to the inpatient department, and came to the familiar ward. The doctor and her father stand outside the ward, while in the ward lies her mother who suffers from uremia. Ching Ching is here. The doctor had obviously been familiar with her a long time ago, and tried his best to say in a normal tone, listen to your father, today you are going to the school's admissions meeting? How was the consultation? Fortunately, my score should be enough to report to Anhui Medical University or Chinese medicine. The girl named Ching Ching simply responded, and then eagerly asked, Doctor, how is my mother's examination? The 2 adults in front of him looked at each other. The father nodded, and the doctor sighed, your mother's PRA, antibody, is too high to have a kidney transplant. If you rely on dialysis, you may only survive for a few years. Expect. Modern medicine always has its limits. For some things, you really can only rely on miracles. When he saw the girl not speaking, he continued, Ching Ching, you also have to be strong. Didn't you keep saying that college should study medicine and cure your mother? Maybe. You also said that medicine has its limits. The girl looked down at the brochure she had just received, even if a university can teach people to practice medicine, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com can't teach miracles. She didn't say any more, just turned her head and ran to the other side of the corridor under the worried eyes of the 2 adults, sat on the waiting stool with her legs soft, and lowered her head. Just then, something fell out of the gap between the materials in her hand, she reached out and picked it up, and then her pupils shrank slightly. The transcendent way, the sincere one will get it. She turned the card over and read the name on it, Kunlun University. Similar scenes were staged in every corner of Angkhen. The name of Kunlun University quickly flew to various places related to middle school students, and it spread quietly among middle school students. Some people picked up business cards that others had thrown away from the ground. Some people got a few words from their classmates. Some people who have seen Wei Ziyi even mentioned it as a joke in the class group. Most people think it is just a scam, but there are also a small number of people who are suspicious, and some buds are growing quietly. Wei Ziyi didn't know these things. All he could see was the inexplicably rising value on the panel. Kunlun University popularity +1 Kunlun University popularity +1. How can you gain popularity without doing anything? Wei Ziyi didn't know about those connections, he was a little confused. Compared with the fact that he went to Flickr in person, this value climbed very slowly, and most of them increased little by little, but in just a few hours, he also saved more than 30 points. It hasn't been increased for a long time. It seems that people who didn't take it seriously have forgotten about it. This method is considered to be the end. Even though he said that, Wei Ziyi was still very excited. With these more than 30 points of popularity, it was enough to unlock the campus. The next day, Wei Ziyi followed the address on the business card to Yushan, located on the outskirts of Angkhen. The tourism industry in Angkhen has developed rapidly in recent years. Most of the mountains have been renovated, and even this unremarkable barren mountain has stone steps. Even so, it took Wei Ziyi a lot of time to climb to the top of the mountain. Hey, it's pretty tired. He wiped the sweat off his head and looked around. In the morning, the top of Yushan mountain was surrounded by cold mist, overgrown with weeds, and was inaccessible. There were no mineral water bottles left by tourists, and only a few lingering bird sounds came from afar. Can there really be a school in this kind of place? Wei Ziyi held down a series, and first clicked the unlock mark on the Grey Fairy Mansion. The campus preparation is complete, please set the enrollment opening time. Wei Ziyi calculated it in his mind. Now that the college entrance examination scores have come out, he will start to fill in his volunteers in 3 or 4 days. Your own university is not in the voluntary system, so you have to cut off from the hands of other serious universities. He set the enrollment time in 3 days and clicked OK. The entire Xianfu icon lit up, and a line of words appeared at the same time. The setting is successful, Kunlun University Yushan campus has been unlocked. At the same time, a dull and loud noise rose from all around, as if a flood dragon that had been sleeping for 1,000 years opened its eyes and roared. It was clear that there was nothing in the surroundings, but the dust flew up like it was shocked by something, instantly covering the sky and the sun. The surrounding fog seemed to revolve in an instant, but in a moment it changed from a thin and vague layer to thick as a cumulus cloud, covering the entire field of vision. Wei Ziyi unconsciously raised his hand to block his eyes, and because of this, he did not see a dazzling glare rising from the front, straight into the clouds, like a drop of ink falling into a clear spring. The ripple-like colors spread rapidly. In Anken, many people were dazzled by a flash of light. They couldn't help turning their heads to look. They saw the horizon in the distance, a golden cloud like a phoenix bird flying across the horizon, but disappeared in the sky after a flash of light. My eyes are dazzled? I just saw the cloud over there. I saw it too, it should be in the direction of Yushan. I got it. Tisk tisk, this color, I'm afraid someone has been promoted. Many photos of auspicious clouds began to spread in the circle of friends and Weibo, accompanied by copywriting such as the auspicious clouds that appeared in Anken today, the fairy bless me, caused a small disturbance. But for some high school students, this is more than just a storm. On this card, the characters have changed. In his bedroom, Wu Hao rubbed his eyes to confirm that he was right, and then almost jumped up. Just as auspicious clouds appeared, he saw that a new line of splashed ink was slowly emerging on the business card he placed on the head of the table. In the hospital a few kilometers away, Yuan Qingqing also took out the business card, staring blankly at the words appearing on it. This is... Is there a miracle in this university? She murmured a few words, and then read the newly emerged words, admissions meeting time, June 25th. In 2 days. Xiao Yu raised his business card over his head to face the sun, squinting his eyes and thinking. This is really interesting. Kunlun campus is successfully constructed, reward spiritual power plus 1000. The main teaching building has been unlocked, student dormitory is unlocked, admissions office building is unlocked, enrollment space is unlocked, staff recruitment is open, admission system is open. Wei Ziyi looked at the prompts that constantly appeared in his mind, and waited until the light in front of him faded before putting down his hands. Just now, on the top of Yushan Mountain, which was still desolate and lonely, there was already a giant standing there. That is a real fairy mansion, with tall buildings and ancient buildings standing in the center. The buildings are all blue tiles and white walls, with different shapes, surrounded by mist-like flowing clouds on the top, and guarded by strange flowers and weeds on the bottom. The outermost side was surrounded by a white wall nearly 2 people high, and a gate composed of 2 blue pillars was erected in front of him. On the door, a black wooden plaque was erected impressively, with 2 engraved characters in gold, Kunlun. This is, my Xiaoxian University. Rao was the initiator, and Wei Ziyi was a little shocked by this movement. He walked into the teaching building along the doorway, walked up the stairs to the top observation deck, and leaned on the railing to look down at his Xiaoxian University. Inside the huge campus, 4 blue-tiled buildings stand quietly. The other places are covered by white mist, and the fairy qi is curling up, which is consistent with the image in his brain. It seems that we need to continue to increase the popularity of the university in order to unlock more areas. He said to himself, then he remembered to look at the newly unlocked function in his brain, and quickly clicked into the interface. His own information has been displayed on the employee management panel. Name, Wei race, human race position, principal, no promotion, cultivation, elementary chi refining features, none skill, none, except for the position of principal. This is basically a whiteboard. Speaking of which, I don't know how to cultivate immortality, so how can I teach students? Wei Ziyi didn't think about it until the school was completed. While wondering, he opened the mall panel again. In the mall, besides business cards, there are a few more items that can be purchased. Kunlun University Custom School Uniform, need 5 Spiritual Power. Kunlun University Admission Manual, requires Psychic Power. 2 Yellow Level Employee Contract, requires 500 Spiritual Power. The price of a higher level item has doubled by hundreds of times. Wei Ziyi browsed them all, and finally put his eyes on the bottom column. Blind Bag for Cultivating Immortals, needs 50 Spiritual Power. Is this a lottery? According to the online essay routines I have read, generally good things are not bought seriously. It's not expensive anyway. Wei Ziyi thought about it, then clicked to buy, and a cloth bag with a gossip pattern appeared on the panel. Blind Bag is successfully purchased. Do you want to use it? Use. Wei Ziyi thought a little bit. The blind bag was opened, and a simple bamboo slip appeared on the interface. 2Na Practice, master all the basic knowledge of luck. After practice, get basic aura sending and receiving ability. The bamboo slips were unfolded, and all the tips for pent-raveling dragons and snakes appeared in front of Wei Ziyi, and then all merged into his body. When merged, he felt a series of knowledge automatically come to his mind. It's not the feeling of forcibly instilling it in, it's more like the memory engraved in the DNA has awakened. The qi sinks to the danshan, and the qi protects the body, 7 or 79 weeks. He walked into the main teaching building on the campus, sat down cross-legged, and breathed out according to the newly emerged knowledge and luck. Is clearly just the most basic deep breath, but it draws the clouds around the body. The mist is overflowing, one breath and one breathe like clouds and mist, like a fairy. He finished the first week of the week without much effort. The process was extremely smooth, as if the directions of the meridians and the imperial qi method had been engraved in his muscle memory. Wei Ziyi took a last breath and opened his eyes, only to feel his eyes are clear. The perspective of seeing the world is like a myopic patient suddenly putting on glasses. Looking at the cultivation base on the personal panel again, it has become intermediate qi refining. This breathing method, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com, sounds nothing strange. It's really a good thing, and it also has its own streamer skin. He turned over and tried to stand up, but almost jumped up. He felt as if his feet were spring-loaded, and his body was as light as he was about to fly. This is the characteristic that muscle power is fully utilized. The way of cultivating immortals is really amazing. I will teach those children this in the future. If this is really popular in society, I don't know what the world will become. Wei Ziyi sighed, and bought a blind shopping bag again after changing hands. A thing with 50 spiritual power has such an effect, then wouldn't the 1000 spiritual power of the establishment of the school make him fly directly? Blind bag is successfully purchased. Do you want to use it? Use. Wei Ziyi opened the second bag expectantly empty. This also leads to consumer fraud? Isn't this bag a magic weapon? As soon as he finished saying these words, the gossip blind bag disappeared in his head like the first bag, and that's why he understood this blind bag is really thankful for participating, and he really won. He didn't believe in evil, and he did it 3 times in a row. Null. 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 My Nima. Wei Ziyi burst into a rough sentence, and finally he suppressed his brainwaves, suppressing the urge to continue the lottery draw. Gambling the dog has nothing, and when it's time to stop, stop. What's more, my current goal is not to cultivate, but to open a university. Since it is a university, it needs a series of teams such as teachers, academics, logistics, and so on. No matter how strong one is, it is impossible to complete a series of tasks by one person. He gritted his teeth, put the blind bag aside, and exchanged his remaining spiritual power for the yellow-level employee contract. Using this item, you can summon a spiritual creature as a school employee, with random races and skills. Note: employees hired by this contract cannot be teachers. Do you want to use it immediately? Can't be a teacher. Wei Ziyi couldn't help but curl his lips while looking at it, slightly disappointed, but still ordered to use. The contract is signed successfully. Hiring staff, wall carving Ghost Wei Eyes saw that the number of employees on the school panel had become 2, then clicked in, and saw another panel next to his profile. Wall carving Ghost Race, Ghost Fairy Position, Door God, Changeable, Introduction. In ancient times, the place where the sentence was executed was very evil, and ghost faces and spirits were often carved in front of the door to suppress the wicked. Over the years, the stone ghosts on the wall devour the spirits of the prisoners to cultivate the immortal law. They are regarded as demons, but they still take the responsibility of guarding the laws and regulations. Essential talents for insects and monsters, Door God. After reading the introduction, Wei Ziyi looked around, but he couldn't find a humanoid like a new employee anywhere, and no one responded even after a few calls. Finally, he found the so-called employee at the front entrance of the university, a wall carving resembling a human face, embedded in the inner part of the door, with wide eyes and noir surrounding the face, which looked quite majestic. I heard the old man in the family say that a door should be hung at the door to ward off evil spirits. But is it really a wall? Wei Ziyi had a black face. I spent 500 spiritual power to hire such a thing. He couldn't help but feel heartache when he thought of even missing 10 chances to draw a lottery in order to purchase items. Is this a wall sculpture? Is it a sand sculpture? Forget it, the money spent is poured out. Remember not to buy this cheating prop next time. Wei Ziyi took a deep breath. Regret is no longer useful, but first think about how to earn back the remaining spiritual power. I have improved my personal strength during the training that I have just now, but the spiritual power of the school has not changed. It seems that only through training students can I get spiritual power. Wei Ziyi sorted it out in his heart, and then cast his eyes on the column of 0 students. In 2 days, it will be the enrollment time I set. I don't know how many people will really believe it among those more than 100 points of popularity. 2 days passed. On the morning of Zhao's birthday, the mist-shrouded Yushan is quiet as usual. The morning sun fell on the broken stairs that had not been repaired for many years, and a pair of old sneakers stepped on the pile of fallen leaves on the stone path, step by step towards the top of the mountain. According to that business card, you will reach the top of the mountain a short walk away, and you will be where Kunlun University is. Wu Hao touched the already warm business card in his pocket, speeded up his pace, and reached the top of the mountain in an hour. However, when he climbed the last step excitedly, what appeared in front of him was a dilapidated grassland. In the breeze, only the yellow leaves covered with dew blew in front of him, not even the slightest breath of human beings. Doesn't it look like there is a school? Wu Hao took out his business card from his pocket and confirmed the information on it. When I was wondering if I had found the wrong place, I heard 2 new footsteps behind me. Looking back, they were 2 high school students about his age, 1 boy and 1 girl, both of them seemed to have just climbed up the mountain. Is Xiao Yuyu and Yuan Qingqing? Did you also come to Kunlun University? Xiao Yuyu saw him at a glance, but did not see him coming forward to ask. Wu Hao nodded, yes, so are you. Well, the 2 of us met on the way. I heard that we both came to the school, so we left together. Yuan Qingqing responded and looked around. Is the address here? Didn't you see it? I didn't find it either, it's almost time. Wu Hao glanced at his watch, and then suddenly realized a problem. Wait a minute, are the only 3 of us enrolling today? The scene was silent for a few seconds, and then Xiao Yu laughed dryly. It should be that way. After all, the address of this school is on a barren hill that has never been developed before. It is suspicious in itself. If this is a scam, it would be too obvious. Wu Hao was speechless for a while. It is not that he did not discover this strangeness, but thinking about the novels he had read, most of the adventures took place in the unknown wilderness, and he believed it. But now that this incident is being pierced by others, and my second form is revealed, this is very embarrassing. Xiao Yu was indifferent, and took out the business card from his pocket. Although it is bluffing, this business card is very interesting. I always keep it in the drawer. Under such a normal temperature and opaque environment, it can automatically show clear words. He clamped the business card between his fingers. In other words, it is not a heat-sensitive material or a photochromic material. The change should be due to oxidation or reversible decomposition, but it feels like paper. I can't think of any material that can make this effect, so I want to ask who did it. He said casually, but the two people next to him were already stupid, and Yuan Qingqing only reacted for a long time. Is your business card also showing the enrollment time? Right. Wu Hao nodded, and Yu read www.yuyuganshu.com just 2 days ago, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I came out without moving anything. 2 days ago in the afternoon, it was about the same time as mine. Xiao Yu thoughtfully, in other words, the response time of business cards in different environments is about the same? This is more difficult to control. What if it's not a reaction? Yuan Qingqing said suddenly, the extraordinary way, the sincere person can get it. Maybe there is a miracle here. Miracles are just a kind of unknown science. When the ancients discovered that white phosphorus could actually ignite ghost fires, they also thought it was a miracle. Xiao Yu shrugged, even if there is something magical about Kunlun University, it draws us here. It's nothing right now. He choked up after only half talking. Before you know it, the surrounding mist has become as thick as milk, wrapping the three people inside, like silent eyes of wind spinning. Before they were surprised, there was already an oncoming wind blowing, and then all the fog dissipated, and a group of buildings with white walls and blue tiles appeared in front of them. This is... Yuan Qingqing opened his mouth, speechless. Wu Hao stood there with the reflection of Xianfu in his eyes, and his eyes seemed to be insufficient. After a long time, he shouted in surprise, the sincere person gets it. This really has an extraordinary way. Even Xiao Yu was stunned. Seeing the word Kunlun on the gate of the blue tile, under the majestic and invisible coercion, he couldn't help lowering his voice, there really is such a thing. At this moment, the dust-covered door slowly opened, and the sound of footsteps that could not distinguish the distance came out slowly. Under the gaze of the three young girls, Wei Ziyi, dressed in white, walked out the door slowly, stood with his hands behind him, and smiled slightly. Welcome to Kunlun University. Welcome to Kunlun University. A word shook the air, and the echo collided back and forth on the empty mountain, and passed into the ears of three teenagers and girls, just like Hong bell ringing. Wei Ziyi has not been idle in these 2 days. In addition to the necessary daily life and familiarity with the campus, all his time is spent on the practice tuna practice. The effect is very significant. In just 2 days of work, he has quickly jumped to the high level of qi refining. It has been able to release the true energy, and then hit objects in the air and transmit sound for 10 miles. Well, surely is an exaggeration. But because of the immortal palace map in his mind, he knows the real Xiaoxian University well, and knows everything from the location of the building to the accuracy of brick by brick. Now he is standing in this position to maximize the echo, and the effect will be greatly reduced if it is too small. But once the momentum came out, it was enough to hold 3 half-aged children who had just grown up. He examined the expressions on these 3 young faces and watched them slowly recover from their stunned state. Then Wu Hao was the first to react in the middle, and immediately bowed at 90 degrees, Old Wei, Wei Xian, this. He wanted to be called Teacher Wei at first, and then he wanted to change his name to Wei Xian Chong, but he seemed to feel that no one was worthy of the scene in front of him, and he seemed a little uncertain. Is this the kid who was so foolish before? There are two others, which seem to be students in number 1 middle school. Do only 3 of the more than 100 people believe it? Forget it, this kind of thing is pretty nonsense, it's better to be able to fool you to 3 than nothing. Wei Ziyi smiled and raised his hand to him, it doesn't have to be that way. You are here to sign up, and I'm just a teacher in this school. It's good that the teachers and students are commensurate. I probably didn't expect this fairy to be so approachable. He saw that the expressions of the 3 in front of him had changed significantly. Although the respect in his eyes was stronger, it was no longer as rigid as before. Yuan Qingqing plucked up the courage to speak. Compared to Wu Hao, who had known Wei Ziyi before, she appeared more cautious. Wei. Teacher. If you are a teacher, then this Kunlun University, are all people like you. Naturally. No one in this campus is not a monk. Wei Ziyi replied sternly. Because there is no one other than me, he silently added a sentence in his heart, but on the surface he was just watching this shocked girl, and smiled lightly. After all, at Kunlun University, I only teach one major cultivation of immortals. Xiaoxian is a short 2 words, can be called thunderous. Is there really a cultivator in this world? Yuan Qingqing spoke subconsciously, and Wu Hao beside him also showed a surprised expression. Even though they were still suspicious before going up the mountain, after the vision just now, they believed it 7 or 8. You should already know the answer to this question. Wei Ziyi said, after all, didn't you come here just to become such a person? He deliberately guided him with rhetorical questions, watching Yuan Qingqing and Wu Hao nodding subconsciously, knowing that it was almost done, so he moved his gaze to Xiao Yuya who was standing at the end. The boy was also looking at him, his expression seemed to be thinking about something. The mist that suddenly became thick may be the sublimation of dry ice, just like the smoke effect on the stage. Making the school that originally existed here is visually invisible, this should rely on mirage-like light diffraction. There is also the voice of the teacher in front of you when talking. Using the curvature of the wall here should be able to create an echo wall effect. In Xiao Yuya's view, every anomaly has a plausible explanation, but there are always some doubts that cannot be explained clearly, just like that peculiar business card. There are many botched scams under the banner of cultivation on the internet, but even if the Ms. Wei and them are the same, he can't give an explanation, which means that he was indeed caught. Then, this kind of deception itself has the value of exploration. At least to understand the truth about this Kunlun University, this teacher. The so-called fairy skill is nothing more than using natural phenomena to bluff people. It is impossible to change the rules themselves. There must be an explanation that you can find. If you find it, the university will be meaningless. Xiao Yuya made up his mind, and immediately took a step forward and showed the business card in his hand. Mr. Wei, the business card we got says that the enrollment time is today, so should we register now? Do you have any questions? Wei Eyes looked at him and asked. No, I'm just rather curious. Xiao Yuyu said, today is the registration day, so is there only 3 of us in this school this year? And the staff responsible for guiding, are you the only one? My heart is broken, classmate. Seeing that the situation is getting out of control, Wei Ziyi is lost in thought, but Yuan Qingqing next to him has already spoken first. Now, the only applicants who register at this time are approved in advance, because other students have not formally enrolled yet. The girl is easy to explain. Wei Zigong was about to applaud Yuan Qingqing in his heart. Wu Hao next to Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com already immediately said, it's not just this, right? I heard that immortal cultivators travel all over the world and do not easily contaminate the world, so the school those people here are now traveling or retreating. This is the norm. I'll go, I can't think of such a reason, Wei Ziyi slandered, still silent on the surface. Seeing that he didn't answer, Wu Hao probably felt that he had answered the wrong question, and was a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, teacher, I think it's too simple, I shouldn't speculate about the immortal cultivator without authorization. It's okay. Wei Ziyi waved his hand gently. It is true that more people will come to Kunlun University in the future. But since the three of you are here today, we will prepare for you first. For other issues, we will explore slowly after the school starts. No matter what, just flicker and stay for now. After he finished speaking, he led the three of them to the school. Since it is a freshman, it is nothing more than submitting files, going through the formalities, and then viewing the campus and entering the dormitory. But these three students have not been formally admitted, and Kunlun University is not in the college entrance examination volunteer system, so Wei Ziyi decided to follow the summer camp method, first by familiarizing the name of the campus, preparing to bring them into the main teaching building. Apply. Since the infrastructure has just been unlocked, the available campus area is not large. Only the main teaching building, the admissions office building, and the two dormitory buildings have a few small roads. The rest are shrouded in fog. If viewed from the sky, it is like an isolated island in a sea of clouds. But the isolated island is an isolated island, and the cloud-filled scene still amazes the three students. And on the way here, they found one more thing: Wei Ai's shadow is disconnected from his feet. His feet did not step on the ground, but the whole person was suspended in the air. This is actually the breathing practice method that causes the true qi to be released, forming an invisible aura around him. It's just the level of the refining period, and it's not possible to fly freely, but it's enough to fool this group of lay students. This is how immortal cultivators go from the sky. Teacher Wei is indeed a real immortal cultivator. After the shock when the university opened just now, Wu Hao and Yuan Qingqing have learned to control their expressions at this time, and they only sighed secretly in their hearts. After all, immortal cultivators, it's okay to fly all the way to the sky, what's the basic operation? However, this scene was seen by Xiao Yuyu, which was a different idea. It is not difficult to make objects float without contact, magnetic levitation can do it. But it is impossible for Kunlun University to deceive them by covering the entire top of the mountain with a magnetic device. There is only one possibility left: superconductors. Considering that it is now at room temperature, it has to be a normal temperature superconductor. Consider the Meissner effect again. If this teacher can make a superconductor effect, then he can turn himself into an anti-magnet. And holding up such a massive body, almost the entire human body is magnetized. Is this so-called deceitful fairy method capable of superconducting effects at room temperature? This can apply for the Nobel Prize. He became more suspicious. When thinking in secret, they have already walked most of the way. Wei Ai's led them around the teaching building and dormitory, and finally came to the small attic where the admissions space was. Through the mahogany and gold-carved doors and windows, you can see things like bookshelves inside. That is the place where student files are stored in the admissions space, and currently only Wei Ziyi can operate it. I will apply for you now. Have you brought all the necessary student registration materials? Wu Hao and Yuan Qing could not wait for him to say this early in the morning, and immediately took out the archive materials they prepared earlier from their bags and handed them in. Xiao Yuyu thought for a while before suddenly speaking. Teacher, are you the administrator of this school? Good question. Wei Ziyi wiped his sweat from his heart and thought about it. Now, it seems that these three students only regard themselves as ordinary admissions teachers. If you now declare that you are the principal of the school, you can certainly strengthen the credibility of your words, but the compulsion of Xiaoxian University must be dropped. Which university did the president personally set up a booth to recruit students? Isn't this exposing that there is no one in your school? Attraction all comes from mystery. First they must learn to respect this school. Thinking of this, he immediately made up his mind and smiled and said, of course not. I'm just a teacher. There is a crouching tiger and a hidden dragon in this school. I dare not call it management. When the 3 students heard it, they were all surprised. The series of strange scenes that only Wei Ziyi showed has been very shocking, but listening to this is just the tip of the iceberg of Kunlun University. Are there anyone in this school who is better than Teacher Wei? Yuan Qingqing asked in surprise. You are just a teacher, then the person who runs this school. This is natural. Wei Ziyi raised his head slightly. The one who opened this school is a great talent in the world of cultivating immortals. He is called a real person in Kunlun. No one knows his real name and no one captures his shape. Perhaps he should have soared long ago, leaving his true essence in the world. In order to spread the way of cultivating immortals to the world and to save all sentient beings, this is the origin of Kunlun University. As a former high school teacher, convincing fabricating is the basic skill. When I was in school, the answer to the exercise was A, so the teacher can give the reason for choosing A for this question anyway. Even if I turned to the bottom page at the end and found that I was looking at the string, the answer is actually C. The teacher can still explain why C should be chosen for the same question without changing the color. Obviously, this bluff is pretty reliable, and the 3 students in front of me listened carefully. So, Kunlun is the president of this university, he is indeed a real master. Wu Hao's eyes showed longing. Yuan Qingqing agreed and nodded, only the slight suspicion had been completely dispelled. If you believe it, you will have it, and if you don't believe it, you will not have it. The founder of this school would be such a real fairy. Judging from the school he founded, the abilities of this real Kunlun man must have exceeded his imagination, and things that could not be done in the world may be solved in front of him. It's a pity that there is no way to see such a big person now, otherwise. Yuan Qingqing thought with regret, but Xiao Yuyu next to her had already spoken for her. The Kunlun real principal and other teachers are not here now. Is it on campus? They are important figures in the world of cultivating immortals. They travel around the world and have a lot of chores. Wei Ziyi nodded. Also, it is during the holidays. Except for me, who is in charge of enrollment, the other teachers have no jobs. Naturally, there is no reason to stay here. Xiao Yuyu's eyes lit up when he heard this, as if he was in the middle of his arms. It just so happens that it won't hinder the teacher's work. Xiao Yuyu said, Teacher, you should be busy first, and I would like to see the facilities on campus again. This time I won't bother the teacher to bring it, so I can see it by myself. All the visions just now were due to Wei Ziyi being by his side. He felt that if he wanted to find out the mystery here, he couldn't be led by the nose by this Ms. Wei. Wei Eyes also noticed that this student had obviously not yet fully accepted Kunlun University. Choosing a university is what you want to do, but now compulsory will be counterproductive. What's more, I also need a private space to store the received files into the system in my head. This system that can control the school in reality is his trump card, and he doesn't want to expose this secret. Yes. He nodded. However, Kunlun University is a place for cultivating immortals, and visions often occur. The 3 of you are walking together, don't touch anything at will, otherwise there may be unexpected consequences. The 3 students agreed and walked out of the office building. Wei Ziyi then opened the file panel in his brain, twisted his finger, and the student files in his hand had been stored in the enrollment space in his brain. In reality, they have become a thread-bound book and are stored on the bookshelf in the small attic. When you open it, you can see the student's school registration, household registration, and other information. In the 21st century, this kind of file management method can still be used. Wei Ziyi smiled and shook his head, and put the thread-bound book with the archives of the 3 people back on the bookshelf, but at the same time he realized another thing. He looked up at the thread-bound books placed on the upper floor. Compared with the 3 new files in his hand, they looked very similar. Aren't these just mere decorations? There are other hidden students in this university. Wei Ziyi wanted to take out a copy for a look, but failed. There was no other student status record in the electronic enrollment space in his brain. Forget it, anyway, even if these students exist, they can't provide me with spiritual power. Let's cultivate the Onet herd of the land in front of you. Wei Ziyi thought so, turned around and walked out of the small attic to see how the three of them were visiting. As soon as I stepped out of the threshold, I heard a strange noise. A few minutes ago, Wu Hao and Yuan Qingqing followed Xiao Yuyu, went straight through the gravel avenue that Wei Eyes took them just now, and turned to a remote corner with no road extending behind the dormitory building. Aren't you going to see the dormitory? Seeing the popularity of the surroundings fade away, on the contrary, the white mist covering the campus is getting thicker and thicker. As a girl, Yuan Qingqing was a little scared. It's not the time to do this kind of thing. Xiao Yuyu said, the teacher has been following us just now. It is not ruled out that he has been operating in secret. In this case, outside of this white fog, the place he just took us to avoid. Maybe there are his methods. I don't think it's possible for Teacher Wei to lie. Wu Hao argued, otherwise, how did you explain those fairy skills just now? It can be explained as a physical phenomenon, but I still need to figure out how it operates. Xiao Yuyu said and turned his head. However, the fog on the top of the mountain is also very strange. The place the teacher took us just now is normal, but there is such a thick fog around, that is to say, the distribution of water vapor in this place is circular. Because this is a place for cultivating immortals. Wu Hao said, isn't it normal that there are clouds and fog on the mountain? No, this is not normal. Xiao Yuyu frowned. At the same altitude, the temperature difference should not be so obvious. Unless the fog here is not generated normally, there must be some special method. Wu Hao wipes the sweat. Let's all come to cultivate immortals, don't care about what is normal or abnormal, right? Xiao Yuyu did not speak this time. Since coming here, the knowledge he has not been able to explain any anomaly in Kunlun University. He came here to solve the puzzle of this university, but now he has encountered an unprecedented challenge. After some abnormality, the knowledge in his heart has been shaken, so he urgently needs to solve this mystery. Seeing is believing. As long as you observe and experiment closely, you will definitely be able to understand the principle of the so-called fairy cloud. He just took a step towards the white mist when he thought so, but a strong wind blew his head. It was like a whip was drawn at him. Xiao Yuyu instinctively let go of his hand, and saw a stone pillar brushing across his eyes, directly dangling him backwards. At the same time, the two people who saw the situation clearly screamed out in fright. I don't know when, the ghost face stone sculpture that was originally placed in front of the school gate has already followed them along the wall. At this time, the seemingly ordinary stone sculpture of the door came back to life, with its huge face twisting and protruding, as if it was about to break away from the wall. The big mouth was opened, and the long grey tongue was spit out, as if a giant python was dancing and blocking the white mist, and it was sweeping towards the three students. What is this? Yuan Qingqing couldn't help backing back, almost falling. Wu Hao stood there stupidly, and shouted at Xiao Yuyu in front of him for a long time, then how do you explain this thing? Xiao Yuyu was also stunned, touching the back of his head that was almost beaten, and sitting on the ground without responding for a while. If other things might be pretending to be a fool, then this is truly supernatural right now. How to explain this thing? Explain it. Just as the three of them were panicked, Wei Ziyi, who heard the voice behind him, arrived. The wall-carved ghost face couldn't make a single blow, and his long tongue withdrew, and the 2 rows of canine teeth in his mouth snarled out, becoming as sharp as blades. It pursed its mouth and took a deep breath, as if spitting out a poisonous arrow, its cheeks bulged, and the stone blade made of canine teeth slashed out, and it was already heading straight for the three of you. Is this, the door wall carving ghost? There was a flash of lightning in Wei Ziyi's mind. Without thinking about it, he breathed out the fa, gathered the spiritual energy in his palm, and waved at the dancing ghost face, stop. With this wave of hand, the aura in the palm turned into a powerful blast, and it hit the bridge of the ghost face's nose with a bang. The wall cracked and gravel splashed everywhere. As if hitting 7 inches of the snake, the ghost face with its teeth and dancing claws suddenly calmed down, and quickly retracted into the wall. Even the stone blades that had been shot were instantly lost, and they dinged and fell on the ground. Wei Ziran arrived in front of the three and asked, "Are you all right?" All 3 of them seemed to be frightened by the movement just now, and when he shouted so, they began to respond Wei, teacher Wei. Yuan Qingqing pointed to the stone ghost. Will there be monsters in Kunlun University too? No. This should be regarded as our employees. Wei Eyes pressed his forehead and fed the 3 of them a reassurance pill. With me, it won't hurt you. But I just said it, Kunlun, there are so many extraordinary things in the university, especially when you first enter here, you must pay more attention to them. Although the cultivators have miracles, they must respect miracles even more. Miracle. Yuan Qingqing looked at the ghost face that suddenly turned alive with lingering fear, but it seemed that something was rising in his heart. The scene that happened just now is beyond her comprehension, but looking at Wei Ziyi's expression, it seems that there is nothing wrong with it. So this kind of thing is not worth mentioning in Kunlun University, right? In this school, such miracles are just commonplace. Those who can enter here must be the existence of transcendence. She raised her head and looked at Wei Eyes over there in half awe. At the same time, Wu Hao beside her was excited. Ms. Wei defeated this monster with a single blow. Such a strength, really is a real immortal cultivator. I was so stupid to treat him as an ordinary admissions teacher before. Wu Hao stared at Wei Ziyi's floating figure in white, only to feel that the heavens were descending from the earth. He secretly clenched his fists, and said to his heart that Kunlun University was finalized. If you can become like Teacher Wei in the future, no, even if you only learn Teacher Wei's fur, he will be an extraordinary person in the world. Wu Hao thought so excitedly. Next to him, Xiao Yuyu, who had fallen to the ground, looked at the scattered stones, and felt something cracked in his mind. Just now, he could see clearly that these stone fragments had clearly shot at him at high speed, but just as Wei Ziyi hit the wall ghost with his palm, all the stones fell to the ground. Newton's first law, all objects always keep a uniform linear motion or a static state when they are not affected by external force. In other words, force is the reason for changing the state of motion of the object, not the reason for maintaining the state of motion of the object. But Wei Ziming didn't touch the stone flakes just now. He just hit the ghost face that shot the stone flakes, and the stone flakes in motion instantly stopped. What does this mean? It shows that the law of inertia is invalid. He looked at the teacher in front of him, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. Student, I should have said just now that you shouldn't act arbitrarily. Wei Ziyi was quite severely admonished. You read www.yuyuganshu.com, and behind him, the wall carving ghost has quietly walked away. The cracked wall is quickly returning to its original shape, the cracks are fading away little by little, and if nothing happens. Newton's third law, the force and reaction force between two objects must be equal in magnitude and opposite in opposite. But now, the effect of the reaction force has completely disappeared. Newtonian mechanics is all right here. Xiao Yuyu looked at Wei Ziyi with no expression on his face. He is stupid. Others are stupid. Staying here for a while, he feels that the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics can almost be cleaned up and get out of his worldview. Wei Ziyi didn't know the thoughts of these 3 young girls. Anyway, everyone was cheated. It was not bad for the formal school. Now this door god has a problem, and he can't risk the lives of these children. This is also a special way to understand the campus. He joked to soothe the atmosphere. The approval of the materials will take time. You can't live in the dormitory before that. Let's go down the mountain and go home first, and enroll in a few days. The result will tell you. Also take the opportunity to think about whether you really want to go this way. When I said this, the three people in front of you looked very nervous when you look at me and you. Obviously they still have some questions to ask, but Weiss has already said that they should not ask more, and they can't say much. Thanks to Wei Ziyi, he was led to the gate, down the mountain from the original road, and waited for the admission result. Wei Ziyi stood at the school gate, watching the three figures disappear on the trail, then put away the smile on his face, turned his head and walked towards the wall-carving ghost that had just received his palm. Everyone is gone, you and I can talk. He braced his chest in front of the wall ghost, deliberately raising his voice. I almost drove the student away, don't you intend to explain something? What he said was just a test. He didn't expect that as soon as the voice fell, the expression of the ghost on the wall became vivid, his eyelids drooped, the corners of his mouth drooped, his face curled into a ball, his expression shy. You shy fart? Wei Ziyi took a long breath, took out the majesty of the principal, and shouted again, before you and I have a contract, call you to be the door of my school, then do you know your own responsibilities? The scene was quiet for a few seconds, and the ghost face reopened his face, his big mouth lifted up and down, and he spit out a few words vaguely. Morning curfew, intercepting dissidents and strictly guarding the restricted area. The voice was low, and he bounced out word by word. There were only 3 people, without the approval of the college, trespassing on the forbidden land. The wicked, kill. It turned out to be preventing students from entering and leaving at will. This guy is really a gatekeeper. Wei Ziyi suddenly understood what the so-called door god means. Gatekeeping, driving people, morning curfew. Isn't this a combination of the old lady in charge and the uncle in security? This thing will not check the bed, right? The only ones who can come here are half-year-old children, and they just need to be ignorant. I mean, don't use killing methods on ordinary students in the future, unless the real villain comes in. The wall-carving ghost agreed, those 3 people, although their minds are tender, but they are innocent. From now on, they will not be killed. Evil ridden? Wei Ziyi thought, do you know who has an impure mind? There is something wrong with my heart, and I am embarrassed. The wall-carving ghost nodded, this, I know it. Weiss. In other words, can this wall-carving ghost recognize who is crooked? This avoids recruiting students who want to use fairy magic to harm society in the future. At least, this yellow-level employee contract is not a loss. Okay, then you can focus on being your doorman. If there is a situation, I will order you separately. The carved ghost on the wall responded, his lips closed, and he retracted back into the wall and stopped moving. Only then did Weiss open the brain panel, and there were already 3 lines of reminders in the enrollment space. Student Wu Hao recruiting income to learn, spiritual power plus 10 student Yuan Qingqing recruiting income to learn, spiritual power plus 10 student Xiao Yu recruiting income, spiritual power plus 10. The admission notice has been generated and is to be sent. Then open the roster of students in the space. There are already 3 more names on the list, and the status that follows is admission. When he entered the postgraduate entrance examination after passing the written examination, the school will send a pending admission confirmation. After clicking the confirmation, it will show the prospective admission status, which secretly means Tuowei choice. In other words, the 3 students have already chosen Kunlun University willingly. In any case, it can be regarded as the first pot of gold since the opening. He looked at the 360 points of spiritual power on the interface. The number was not high, and he always felt uneasy in his heart. So I simply opened them all and sent an order to test the water. Successful purchase of Xiaoxian blind bag use. Wei Ziyi was heartbroken, and he was mentally prepared to let go. The blind bag opened, and there was no bamboo slip, but it was a piece of broken yellow paper. Remaining page of the 7 Taituo transformation of Earth Shaman. One of the 7 Taituo transforming skills of Earth Shaman can be mastered randomly. Note, repeated skills cannot be mastered again. Do you want to use it immediately? The game probability theory does not deceive me, it is really just a miracle. 7 Taituo changes. It's really hard not to remind people of the great power of a certain surname Sunday. No wonder this stuff is cheap, the co-author is selling skill fragments. Wei Ziyi spit out and clicked to confirm. Successfully use, gain skills Taioki skill effect, use the true energy as a guide, tune in the birds and beasts at their disposal. He exhaled deeply and raised his hand to the air with a move. Immediately, countless mountain birds gathered, accompanied by the cries of one after another, rotating around his side rhythmically according to his heart. He knew this scene. When I was young, I saw Disney princesses singing and dancing almost like this. Vase skill. Wei Ziyi lost his aura and shook his head to conclude. Mobilize birds and beasts, it sounds very tall, but the practicality is really not very high. Think about the 7 Taituo evils of the earth, there are actually similar signs, such as Zhihua and Zeyun, that are beautiful and easy to use, but now that the spiritual power is in short supply, he has no chance to bet on the face. School hasn't started yet, so I don't know if there is any chance to recruit more students. Wei Ziyi pressed his forehead and smiled helplessly. Forget it, you can't be too greedy as a human being. Let's go wherever you go. In short, take care of yourself. Pay attention to the 3 students already recruited. At this time, the bus stopped at the foot of Yushan Mountain. According to Teacher Wei, meeting is fate. I hope we can see you again on campus. The 3 people simply said to each other separately, and then left in 3 directions. Not far out, Yuan Qingqing stopped suddenly, opened the school bag behind him, and took out the university promotional materials he had obtained the previous 2 days. She raised her hand and threw all the materials into the trash can next to her. People have limits, but Xiu Xian does not. Yuan Qingqing stared at those for a while, then turned and left. She still needs to go back to the hospital to take care of her mother. But this time her eyes are no longer confused. She held the Kunlun University business card in her arms and said in a voice that only she could hear. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. There are real miracles in the world. Xiao Yuyu sat on the bus going home, leaning against the window, letting the cold wind wake him up. After the initial confusion, he gradually recovered, and then he felt more excited than ever. It's like encountering a difficult problem during an exam. Other students will be nervous and anxious, but he will only be excited. It turns out that somewhere in the world, there is still a set of rules that the world has never known. Everything is brand new, like after drifting on the ocean for a long time, suddenly found a virgin land that has never been cultivated, waiting to be explored. Is there anything better than this? He was so sinking in his thoughts that the mobile phone in his pocket rang for a long time before he realized that there was a call and hurriedly picked it up. Hello, is this classmate Xiao Yuyu? There was a polite voice over the phone. We are from the admissions office of Beijing University, and we have been ranked in the college entrance examination of Anken City. This time your score is ranked first in the city. Congratulations in advance. During the admissions season, the 2 top universities of Huaqing Beijing University will start to pay attention to the top students from all over the country in advance, commonly known as snatching the champion. As early as after the score was evaluated, the teachers and parents reminded him to pay attention to the phone. You will start to fill in your volunteers in the next few days. How are you thinking about it? The admissions teacher greeted a bit and got to the point. Most of the liberal arts majors in our school are number 1 in the country, especially in basic subjects. What do you want? We have the best scientific research resources. If you come, we can also help you apply for the highest scholarship. Faced with this condition that was enough to make every Huaguo student scream, Xiao Yuyu just smiled. Thank you for your enthusiasm. However, I already have a target college. He pressed the screen and hung up the phone. Later, Wu's family. The dinner table is already full of good dishes such as braised fish, braised prawns, and stewed local chicken. A family of 3 sits around the table, the electric fans behind them whirl, steaming under the incandescent lamp. I've done it, let's offer a drink to our college students today. Father Wu was flushed with his drink, and slammed his glass loudly. My boy has done well in these years in the city. When I return to the village later, I will see who will pay for it. Said my old Wu family has no literate people. Hazi is a material for studying, we have seen it since childhood. Wu mother nodded in agreement, his father, this is not a simple cultural person. Wu Hazi was admitted to a major university. It is also the best among college students. A pinch. Wu Hao looked at his happy parents, embarrassed for a while, and could only accompany him with a smile and put the meat into the bowl. Look at you, the village chief called to congratulate him. Mother Wu took the meat to him and answered the phone conveniently, hey, the village chief. Yes, my son was admitted. Hazi, what is your school's name? Wu Hao stopped his chopsticks and said naturally, it's Kunlun University. Thinking of the extraordinary phenomena of those immortal cultivators shown by Wei Ziyi today, his embarrassment was wiped out. It is no exaggeration to say that even if he is admitted by a major university, he will definitely insist on choosing Kunlun University. There is such an amazing school in the world, and he was selected. According to the novel routine, this is the beginning of the hero's adventures, and the great wheel of destiny begins to slowly rotate. From then on, it will be a magnificent adventure that will change the world. Isn't this more important than getting admitted? Thinking of this, he still feels a little regretful. Parents have never seen such powerful immortal practitioners like Teacher Wei, so naturally they don't know how powerful Kunlun University is. I'm afraid it's just an ordinary focus. Sure enough, as he thought, Mother Wu said to the microphone after listening, oh, Wei Hazi said, he was admitted to Kunlun University, and we don't know the specifics, hey? What did you say? Yes, it's called Kunlun University. She put down the phone and looked weird, son, did you really get admitted to Kunlun University? That's right. Although the admission letter has not been issued yet, the principal said I am qualified. Mother Wu's expression was even more weird, and she eagerly put down the phone with a few words on the other end of the phone, quickly, go watch TV, Enken 1, the village head said that someone on the TV mentioned this Kunlun University thing. Someone mentioned Kunlun University? How could such a magical place be exposed so quickly? Wu Hao was immediately puzzled, and hurriedly turned on the TV and adjusted the channel. It was a special report on the evening news for the college entrance examination, and the Anken City No. 1 special interview program was being broadcast at this time. The picture of was just recorded in the afternoon. The No. 1 player in the middle was pointed at by a bunch of microphones, and the scene looked very hot. Isn't this the classmate I saw today? Wu Hao was taken aback. The interviewee was not someone else, but Xiao Yuyu. Classmate, it is said that you have already declined the invitation of Huaqing and Beijing University. Is it true? Yes, I have accepted the invitation of Kunlun University. Kunlun University? Is there any school in China that is more attractive to you than the Qing and Beijing schools? Can you tell me something else? It's hard to describe that school. I can only say that everything about it is beyond my imagination, so I must find the answer to it. Xiao Yuyu said, but this is just an ideal situation. After all, I am not determined if I can get admission to that school. Will the top scholar worry about whether he can be admitted? The admission standards of this Kunlun University are so strict. I don't know the specific admission criteria. But for now, my grades are meaningless to the admissions teachers there. Wu Hao looked at the TV, sweating on his forehead. That classmate who went to Kunlun University with him was actually the city champion? No, it doesn't matter anymore. The important thing is that he dared to mention Kunlun University's name in public. Isn't this exposing this detached existence? Even the half-celestial person like Teacher Wei usually just pretends to be an ordinary unnamed middle school teacher. The enrollment is personally to the No. 1 middle school to get involved in the publicity meeting. Obviously, he wants to be anonymous and act in a low-key manner. This is what Zioxian University should do. How can this person not realize the teacher's painstaking efforts, so unobtrusive about Kunlun University? Son, this is your future college classmate. The Wu family's parents didn't realize his thoughts at all, and were only surprised. Did you test the school with the champion? Yes, no, it may be a mistake. Wu Hao is determined to be tight-lipped and must not let Kunlun University's painstaking efforts to live in seclusion for many years and conceal the existence of the fairy law be destroyed. But the excited two elders ignored his stubbornness, turned their heads and yelled at the existence on the other side of the phone. Yes, that's Kunlun University that Huzi took the exam. The one on TV? The village chief, what you said, if our Huzi can go to this kind of school, then you have to give us the blessing of worshipping the Bodhisattva before the exam. Don't worry, when the children in the village go to school, we must ask Huzi to give some advice. Even I heard that this university is not easy to enter. The phone conversation is obviously very hot, and the momentum is to introduce all the children from the village to the kindergarten from the college entrance examination next year. Wu Hao didn't stop him, sitting there in a hurry, but his mobile phone also lit up. It was WeChat Bonkin who exploded. Have you read today's news? The city champion of our school gave up the places of Huaqing and Beijing University and chose that Kunlun University. Is this person's brain flooded? How did you get the top pick in the exam? Leave this alone, there are even more wicked things. The Kunlun University he mentioned is not found on the internet, and it is not even in the volunteer system. I am afraid that it is not a private squad. Wait, speaking of this, I seem to have picked up a business card from the side of the road 2 days ago. A photo was passed to the class group. Wu Hao clicked on it, and it was a Kunlun University business card exactly like himself. That day, Wei Ziyi sent out dozens of copies, most of which were not believed, but at this time it was detonated because of the news. Brother, where did this business card come from? Are you sure it is the genuine Kunlun University? The first 2 days? Is that what you will get at the admissions meeting? The admissions team of that university came to our school? Who has seen it? Seeing the situation getting worse, Wu Hao wanted to say a few words several times to suppress the momentum. But he was usually a little transparent in the class, and his words were quickly brushed up. With a mobile phone in his hand, he listened to his mother enthusiastically introducing Kunlun University to the villagers, just feeling like sitting on pins and needles. It's over, now Kunlun University's affairs will really be exposed, if this is known by Teacher Wei. The more he thought about it, the more disturbed he became, but he was helpless. He could only pray that the teachers at the school would take care of the trivial matters of the outside world. Even if it was really exposed, the school should have mature countermeasures. But in fact, Wei Ziyi already knew. During this time, he only saw the numbers in his brain refreshing crazily. Visibility plus 28. Visibility plus 67. Visibility plus 45. Famousness plus. Fuck, why are you so ferocious? Wei Eyes watched the number scroll at a convulsive speed, and within a short while, it rose by a full 700 or 800. It didn't take long to jump and climb to 1000. Improved popularity and achieved the achievement fledgling the campus facility Audiobook Pavilion has been unlocked.